is very important to us. Please hold.
Hello and welcome back to
On hold with Leo and
Hello
Woman.
and welcome back.
Please hold.
On hold.
Welcome back. Hello and welcome back.
Please hold.
On hold with Leo and Woman.
Hello, welcome back. Hello, welcome back.
Please hold.
Hi, we are live now. How are
Hi,
you?
Lindy. I'm good. How are you?
I am great. Why is my chin not showing?
I can see your chin.
Okay. Hello, Makati. We are already live. I hope you can see us. I think we are getting people to join us, but we will start either way. I think when they join us, they can just, must flow in. But Fortune, welcome to On Hold.
Thank you.
Mm. So, we've been over a year now. So the
Yes.
place is growing. And one day I'll probably have a nice dinner with all of my guests. So I'm trusting God for that one. So thank you so much for agreeing to be here. This is our Sunday Soul session where we
Thank you
have
for having me.
conversation and we talk because we like to talk.
Yes.
So let me let you introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you, Lindy, for having me. A very good evening, and a good whatever wherever you're joining us from. My name is Fortune Gamanya, and I am an organizational development strategist. What it means is that I work with organizations in the spaces of strategy formulation, strategy facilitation, leadership development, change management. So we partner with organizations that are either going a large digital transformation or they're going through a cultural transformation, any form of change. We work with organizations in that space. And so, because of that, I have the privilege of seeing and experiencing many cultures in my line of work. And I'm hoping to share some of those experiences and what I've learned just from humans about the subject that we'll be talking about this evening.
Yeah, I know you are very passionate about it because when we
Yeah,
spoke about it, I was convinced. I was like, yeah, but why do I be so under pressure? Obviously. So I
yeah.
was convinced and I was glad to have this conversation with you. So I think from on my side, I think everything I'm going to learn from you from the conversation.
Mhm.
So yeah, so guys online, please help me welcome Fortune and please tell her how pretty she looks. I mean, she had to get a choke for me for just to be here. So please,
I
all
must
right.
show up. Was.
Yes, of course. So now let's get to it. Now,
Mhm.
why the topic? What is it that just got you?
Yeah. So, many years ago, I will never forget, I had been so because of my work, I travel a lot. I remember I had done like a stretch of I think 13 days of just travel. And I think the break in the 13 days, but work travel, was the travel days, moving from one city, one country to the next. And I remember saying to my sister, yes, the way that I'm feeling right now, it's like I'm holding on to barbed wire. Eh?
Mm,
My fingers are bleeding and they're about to fall off, but I'm like, I can see the end. And I'm just going to hold on until I see through the last piece of work that I have to do before I go back home. But I think what that has become, it's become an analogy that whenever I share it with people who either we are just in conversation and we are talking about life or we are talking about their experience at work and their career, it's become an analogy that people can relate to. I remember once speaking to an acquaintance that we were introduced by a mutual friend, and she was telling me that she had just come back from leave, and she had gone to some island with her family, and it was, I think, COVID, and then she came back, and then she had meetings from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, and on that first day back, when she got off the first call, she's just come back from leave. When she got
Mm.
off the first call, she had a
Mm.
stroke.
Mm.
And so I'm like,
Were you on leave or were you not on leave?
you leave.
Clearly not.
And I think that story is not exclusive to her,
No, it's not.
because I've spoken subsequently to a few other people who, they'll go on leave. We are on leave, but we are not. Because the thing is, we go on leave, but this thing here
Mm.
continues to work. Sometimes you wake up and you're like, oh, I mean, I've seen people who like they'll wake up. I'm like, what was that? And they're like, oh yeah, no, I've just got a solution to a problem that I was dealing with at work. But you're on leave, and I can tell you that that has definitely happened to me. On a
Mm.
weekend, I could be sitting at church, and I can feel myself that now I'm writing a proposal. Like I'm in church, but I'm writing a proposal. And I think that we all do this, but I think it's the pressure that that we've been put under by society. I mean, I remember um, speaking to a friend and her saying, "Fortune, I can't. I mean, it is hard. I literally I feel abused, but I can't. I am the first one to reach this level of executive success in
Mm.
the family. And I can't now turn around and say, the joy that I've created for everyone and the pride that I've created for everyone. Now, all of a sudden, I'm like pulling the rug right under their feet, because remember, for them, it's also like, they speak with pride,
Mm.
right? So what
Mm.
happens now? And so I think there are many of us, whether it's on the call here or you and I, who have
Mm.
held on to things that are no longer serving us, because we are holding on to them for other people, but not for ourselves.
And I mean, you speak about work. Well, with work, we are
Yeah,
just, it's a problem. I don't
yeah,
even know if I want to talk about that, but okay, let me
yeah,
comment on that and then I'll tell you where else I see this happening. Because
yes,
I think with work, it also has to do with just feeling like how long it took you to get here to let go.
yes,
Maybe it's an insecurity that imposter thing coming through as well. You kind of like want to stay on top of the game, not wanting to miss out, because I've also seen that people worry about who's asking what question when, what if. It's a trusting
yeah,
your team to allow them to just be there. So it's a lot of things, and I think sometimes in our space we deliberate to saying it's like now December time. They know they'll hear me say, "Leave your laptop, leave your phone, go home." Like if possible, leave it in the office. Don't
yeah,
even take it home so that you can just let go, because it takes time to let
yeah,
go of work mentally. When you
yeah,
go on leave, it takes a couple of days before you can actually, like get relax. So you take 2 weeks. It takes you a whole week to unwind, to actually,
yeah,
I don't know, and then it's another week where you feel like, okay, maybe I'm taking my leave now, but then time is up. You must go back,
exactly.
and that's why we never rest. But what I want to talk about is where else I see this. If I see us holding on to work, I see us holding on to relationships, friendships, that are not serving us anymore, but because of whatever the fact is, we're still holding on, and it is
Yeah,
difficult. To family, to issues like that, to churches. that are, you can see no longer growing,
Yeah.
but because it's a family church, I grew up here, what, or
Mm,
because the church that I'm married into.
mm,
And I think there's a lot of pressure on us, because we always have to take up another identity all the time, and we have to push and take up a different identity all the time.
mm.
And we kind of like cannot give the impression that we can't.
Yeah. No, I think that it's that narrative that saying, and I always say that, remember, when you say yes to something that is no longer serving you, you are saying no to yourself.
Mm,
Let's start there. You have
mm,
to know that when you say yes to something that's no longer serving you, you are saying no to yourself. And I always share an analogy that my mother-in-law always gives. She always says, "Fortune, it's a little bit like when someone is going through stuff, we want to say to them, no, man, just swallow the thing so that you can drink your pills, just swallow. And she says, and you guys forget that for me to swallow, there's like a wound, there's like an ulcer in my throat for me to swallow. And Tina, who are not the ones who are swallowing, all we are saying, we are just thinking about you being able to take your medication. We are not thinking about the ulcer that will be disturbed. So what we then do is we also put pressure on other people. And I remember when we were growing up, I used to hear, when you overhear
mm,
adults talking,
mm.
and they'll, in my language, they'll be like, "Ndogarira vana vangu," like, I'm going to stay for my kids, whether it's a marriage. When you talk about marriage, relationships, friendships, um, jobs, whatever it is, I just want to say, when you say yes to stuff that's not serving you, you are betraying yourself, because you're saying no to yourself. And this whole thing of saying yes to yourself, ooh, I don't think there's a courage that
Mm.
surpasses that, you know. And the thing is, and I can give you just a simple test. If you look at people who have said yes to themselves fully, um, you'll see that they make us, or whoever hasn't said yes to themselves fully, feel some type of way. So
What are
if you
you
look,
feeling? Are you feeling like
yes,
what?
like if you look at someone,
Mm,
doing, exhibiting what I call the full authentic expression of themselves without any inhibitions, and it
mm,
makes you feel some type of way. The problem is not that person.
it's you.
The problem is you. And you have to ask yourself, my niece is so big on, Mamma, you've got free will, girl. Just do you. Um, I'll never forget when I decided to leave a particular role, which I thought, I thought everything, I had everything going for me in that role, and I decided to step away from the role. And I remember a very close person to me saying that, Fortune, I don't know if you've considered what I'm about to say to you. Um, I want to say that I think that there are many young Black females watching you. And if you step away
Mm,
when they used to see themselves in you,
mm,
what does that mean for them? And I said, look, they could see me step away and ask me why I'm stepping away, and I could be very honest with them why I'm stepping away. Or I could stand here and sell them something that I don't believe in. And right now I don't feel like I'm giving my best to this. And so that is why I'm deciding to step away, which is the thing that I think I might want them to look up to, rather than me just
mm,
holding on for the sake of them, to have somebody to look up to. Um,
Mm,
and yeah, so I think that it's also what it's a little bit like what um, Dr. Shefali Tabari says that we want to raise our children to be better than us, but we then never show them what a better than us version looks like.
mm.
So I'm like, Sinzan, like, what are we doing?
Yo, and how much we do that is like you don't even know how to be the best version of yourself. How are you going to even show anyone else? We do it by screaming at them, don't worry.
I love that. I love that honesty.
Shout. We
Mm,
shout, and hopefully they get it. That's, yeah, I mean, you can do better, Max. You can get them. And they're like, what the hell? I
mm,
mean, my sons are very different from me. So they always tell me, so when I'm on about Max and when I was in school, and they're like, Mom, we're not you. Well done.
do you want to start for it?
Yeah, like, well done. Not
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So I have to let go as well, not hold on to it and say, okay, what do you feel you want to be and how? And they say, this is, I'm happy with this. And then I've
Yeah.
just, instead of
Yeah.
trying to shout it out of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm interested to know from the people that are online what you guys think you're still holding on to or what you're struggling to let go of. There's a video fortune that I did around boundaries because I think this conversation talks to boundaries.
Yeah.
And I was talking about how difficult, how people never realize how difficult it is for the person setting the boundary. So, you talk about saying no to yourself. It's like the day you say yes to yourself and say no to people. We're not used to that. We're used to serving people, to showing up for people so that people can like us, love us, accept us, etc. Because we don't want neglect and not fitting in all those situations.
Yeah.
And the chances of saying no to people may mean that now you're socially excluded and all of that. And the day you say no, so you say set a boundary, say maybe with family or friends, to say no, I'm married now, I no longer participate in these things, or sorry parents, I cannot give you money anymore, whatever the case is, or you used to do or host Christmas every year. This time you're like, no, I'm not hosting Christmas anymore, whatever the case is.
Mm.
People don't care to check how did you get there, Lindsay, to a point where you're saying no. Are you okay? Because the problem is the point that I got to, I didn't get there with a lot of excitement. I had
Yes.
to think, rethink, go back on my thinking, come
Yeah.
back to it and say, am I sure? Test it, practice. What am I going to tell them? And then also practicing their response. If this one's going to say this one's going to say this. Can I take the punch? Can I take the words? Can I take all of that? So when I say no, it means my mental wellness is already compromised, just where I am. But what
Yeah.
people will do is to worry about what they're missing out from you instead of coming and saying, what did we not do right? To push you to this point.
Yeah. So somebody said a few weeks ago, they said that, there was a study that was done, and 96% of the people who took part in the study said that they were self-aware, but when they did an actual assessment, they realized that 15%, only 15% of that group was actually self-aware. And why am I giving these stats? Because Lindy, when I always say people will be who they are. And what do I mean? I always say, never, never do something for someone hoping that you are going to be immune to who they are.
Mm,
And if who they are is that I expect things to be done for me, and I expect Lindiwe to continuously be bending her back over for me backwards, and doing X, Y, and Z. And when Lindy comes to tell me that actually I can't do this for you anymore, Fortune, and Fortune reacts in the way that Fortune was always going to react, Lindy
Mm.
is not a problem.
Mm.
Fortune,
But Lindsay will feel guilty.
but now, okay, now we are getting into another. So now there's the Fortune problem, and then there's the Lindy problem. The Lindy that the Lindy now in this case is that
Mm.
they have an issue with their self-worth being attached to serving others.
Mm.
And so, Will Smith talks about it in his book. He says he went to therapy because he has two personas. He has, I think, Uncle Fluffy, and he has the general. The general gets things done. Uncle Fluffy pleases people. And he says there was no balance. And because there was no balance, it was creating a dysfunction in his relationships. And so when
Mm.
he started working with his therapist said, you're going to have to bring a balance. So there are going to be times when you can feel that Uncle Fluffy wants to come and do something that is going to cost you. It's not going to
Mm.
cost you in the moment, but it will cost you somehow. And
Mm.
so he says he was at the cans, and he went to the gym at a hotel somewhere, at the Cannes Festival in France, and he went to the gym, and there was a guy who wanted a photo, and in that moment he remembered the words of his therapist, and in that moment he said, I really did not feel like taking a picture, but Uncle Fluffy kept on saying, well, come on, this is one and only time in his life to have a picture with you. And he said, I had to be true to how I was feeling in the moment. And I had to say to him, without being rude, I had to say to him, listen, I really am not up to a picture. And he says, I went to the room and agonized. I went to my room and agonized about how that guy was going to go and tell people how much of a horrible person I am because I said
Mm.
no to the picture. And so the Lindiwe situation that you're now explaining is that now Lindiwe will take it upon herself. Fortune has acted the way that she is acted, but
Mm.
Lindiwe has to, the cliche, stick to her guns. Otherwise,
Mm.
we will continue to push the boundary. Because when we flout our own boundaries, we are unconsciously and subconsciously sending a message to others that they can flout our boundaries.
Mm. Mm.
And so it's better for people to know where we stand because then if they don't, then we'll have a challenge that we've created for ourselves.
But also, that's why we keep holding on because we
Yeah.
don't want to face that discomfort
Yes.
of facing that, what are they going to think about me? And that's why we kind of like want to always just stay and hold that barbed wire until your fingers chop off. And then
Yeah.
you're still going to see your fingers chopped off, and then you hold like until the whole arm is gone.
Then you just put on the other part of the hand. You'll now use your palms.
Yeah, you use your elbows like I'm holding on here,
Now you end up using your body.
your body,
Like
because
it's
you're not going to go through the pain of
yeah,
feeling what Uncle Fluffy was feeling.
yes, yeah. Um, there
Yeah,
is a comment. Do you
yeah,
wanna?
yes. So then when I be a victim of thinking helping people will guarantee me the same actions when I need help.
No, 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 no. Is that freedom? No, freedom. A person will always be who they are. Don't expect that your help or your contribution. You could help someone with something that could change the trajectory of their life. Don't think that they are going to be indebted to you. And that in itself is not true giving. True
Okay.
generosity is giving without expecting anything in return.
Mm-hmm. I
So now
think we
when
know
we
that, but
give,
why do we expect otherwise?
but now when we give with the expectation of whether a person should be indebted to me, or if I hold on, then one day I'll be rewarded for this, then we are not giving, we are serving our ego to some degree. That is scary. And I also just want to say here that people are going to be very quick to be like, no, Fortune, but I mean, I don't have an ego. It's a lie. We all have an ego, all of us. You just yours just shows up different. So maybe yours shows up masked in, let me help someone, and then with the hope that I'm depositing in the bank. Then that is not giving. If you give me, if you give me or do something for me, hoping that tomorrow eh, I will remember you, then that's not giving. If I give you hoping that tomorrow you will see me, that giving is a little
Yeah,
suspect.
and we do that a lot.
We do
Like,
that.
yeah, when I was going through this, I was there for them.
Yes.
Now I need help and they're not here.
Then if there was like a board, a scoreboard somewhere, then the moment you count it here to say I did this for Lindy, then you must take it off your scoreboard because that wasn't giving.
Mm. So you were kind of like depositing, investing,
Yes, you're investing.
and you're hoping for returns.
Maybe call that the ego bank.
Okay.
Mm.
So why do we do it again? Oh, for the ego.
Yes, for the ego to feel
That's something
like.
I think we know it, but I don't know why we keep expecting.
So
I don't know why we keep expecting things still.
Oprah says, I think in the late 90s, she stopped doing shows just for the sake of doing shows. And every time a producer came to her with a particular show, because the reason why she did that is she did a show where she feels she embarrassed somebody's wife live on TV, because it was a show that the producer had suggested, and they brought the mistress and the wife on the show. But then at the end of the day, the wife was embarrassed, and she said, after that show, I realized I had lost the plot, and what I started doing was every time a producer came to me with a show, I would ask them, what is the intention of
Mm,
this? What is
mm,
it that you want to teach with this show? Um, and so I think it also goes with giving, with holding on. What is the principle behind the holding on? Because sometimes maybe the principle behind why you're holding on is worth you holding on. But if it's
mm,
not driven by principle and it's driven
mm,
by ego or something that will cause you harm, I would say you have to rethink it. So, what is the actual intention? What is the intention for giving? And if you are truthful to yourself, you will know the intention for giving,
mm,
for
mm,
holding on. In this case, that's what
mm.
we're talking about. Yeah.
And even if it's for selfish reasons or for your own egos, like we say, then
Go into
it
it knowing.
going to, yeah, have the self awareness that I'm staying because I don't have an option, or this is what I need, or this is what I enjoy from here. And this is, at least you know and you're aware why you're doing it,
Yes.
rather than complain and expect to be seen
Yes.
and helped,
Yeah.
whereas you're not. And then, yeah.
You're doing it because it serves you, you know. Um, And I mean, I've had people who, and I want to talk about this issue that you mentioned around no option, which I don't think in the many situations that, whether I've coached people or I've worked with people, that I believe for sure that people will not have choices. But I think that we get arrested by what we think we lack or we gain from a situation, that it actually starts to become gospel for us. So we don't see any other way out other than being in that situation.
Mm.
And I mean, it's scary because corporate does that to us. Um, and I've always said, when you decide to go onto this corporate ladder, corporate jungle gym, whichever you choose, you have to opt in. The reason why you are in the game is you said yes, you applied for a job, and you
Mm.
applied for a job and you got the job. And I always give the analogy that, when you do these things, you you have to prepare for it. You have to get yourself ready for it. It's a little bit like going on a journey, and you go on a journey with no food, with no water, with nothing, and you're going into a desert.
Mm.
Of course, your body is going to require that you you quench your thirst.
Mm.
You're going to nourish your body with food. And so if you don't have those things, how do you expect that journey to go? So the corporate landscape is such that you have to, it's a human system, and you have to get into human systems knowing that they are driven by power and politics.
Mm.
So you have to prepare yourself to understand the landscape. People are always very quick when I say this, they're always very quick. No, fortunately, I don't play the dirty game of politics. Well, girl, you're not going to make it in a human system, church, a corporate, or a thermic. Yes, it is fueled by
Mm.
politics. So
Mm.
when you get into these spaces, then know that you have to be prepared. Whether it's a psychologist, it's a sponsor, it's a mentor, it's a coach, it's a person who you are just going to vent to. You need all of those people because that's what the journey requires. So
Mm.
if you're going to hold on, if it's a job in a corporate space, know that you're going to have to really prep yourself for this holding on, whatever form it looks like, because you can't opt in. And it's a little, you can't go and climb Mount Kilimanjaro and think that it's going to be easy peasy. You're
Mm.
going to have to train for it. You're going to have to make sure you've got the prerequisite, whether it's food, it's meds, it's training, whatever it is, it's clothing, whatever you need, take with you. And I think with anything in life, we can't
Mm.
just go in thinking that, it's going to be all hunky dory. So when people get new jobs, I always say congratulations, and I pray and hope that it's going to be whatever you hoped for it to be.
Mm.
Because the
Mm.
thing is, I think, if you are green and you are 22 and you're coming into a new role, I'll forgive you for coming in naively and blindly. But
Mm.
if you're a middle manager, a senior manager, an executive, and you
Mm.
think that you can just walk in and no, I
But
have a
then
problem.
what are we hoping for? I think maybe every person believes their journey is different or it's gonna be special or something. It's kind of like you're thinking, I've got I've figured this out. So I'm trying to say you kind of like undermine the journey. Think you've done it before, or you've seen it before, or you know it and you know your way around it. I mean, I can remember when I got married quite early,
Mm.
like 23, and my mom used to talk and I used to answer and say, no, I know what I'm doing. I know what this plus this equals this, and this is how I'm going to maneuver this situation. Because I told you, talk. So now you get into this thing thinking and believing you've got understanding or you've got it all figured out. And we forget to take stock of saying, I must just remember where I am. Just because maybe in the previous job the politics didn't disturb me or they did or I managed them or I was playing them unaware or whatever, doesn't mean in the next job they're not there. The fact is that you need to always remember that the system, like you're saying, is like that. So you gotta expect it and prepare for it either way. It's like what did you expect is going to happen?
Yeah. No, that is true. Under the sun, Lindy, where there's no system that is as complex as a human system. We are very, very complex. So I always say to leaders at the end of leadership development programs, I always say you need to pat yourself on the back because presiding over us humans.
Is the problem. It's like parenting. Hey,
Mm, 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 mm. We are complicated beings. And I always say that if you want to see that we are complicated, look for the most amazing person. If you have an amazing person in mind who's been divorced before, you have to ask yourself, "Uguti, what is it about this amazing human that could have repelled another or that could have caused the other to be repelled by them?" And that must just show you that as humans, we are complex. And so when you engage in human systems, you started your point by saying, maybe when I get into this, I'll be thinking that I'm special. So the funny thing is that we all think we are special. I'm sure, there are people, I listen to people, they're like, oh, if I leave this organization, it will not
mm,
stay.
mm,
And
mm,
believe it, girl, because you're amazing. Uh, but just make sure that it doesn't blind your ability to see the reality and
mm,
really navigate the
mm,
world in a way that is wise,
mm,
um, and that exhibits awareness.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it does it a lot. And you go into another space thinking you are the unicorn.
Yes.
Yes. And then until a few months and you realize, mm.
Yeah.
And then you're worried now. What happened? Because I came here thinking this and thinking that, and now I'm no longer treated this way. I was expecting this, and then now it's war.
And
So I think at some point we just undermine, like you're saying, what is going on, and we kind of like think certain things we're immune to, or because we are so great, we are not going to experience.
No, that is true. And I think we also need to take responsibility for our role in these situations of holding on. Mm. And what do I mean? A few years ago, let me say not few, many years ago, I wanted to leave a role. Um, and somebody said to me, so how do you know, Fortune, that this madness, in inverted commas, that you want to leave is not created by a monster that you carry? That this
Mm.
madness that you want to leave, you're going to go and create it
Elsewhere.
elsewhere.
Mm. Because it is you. It's a you issue.
It's a you issue.
What was your response?
I was like, I was like, what are you not saying?
Are you trying to tell me there's something wrong? Just say it.
What? So I guess what I'm saying is we need to examine these situations before we blame the context and
Mm,
blame everyone else. What is
mm,
the role that I am responsible for in the situation that I find myself?
mm, mm.
Because we
No, it's
have,
never me. It's never me.
no, it's never me, it's everyone
Mm.
else.
And the whole thing and the whole world.
Yeah. So, when what role have you played in creating this thing
And
that,
in creating the dependency,
yeah,
right?
oh,
That
because the
people have.
dependency feeds the ego.
Yes, 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 yes. In creating and yeah. So what have you done to create the dependency? And in you creating the dependency, you may have just had to do specific not nice things because you want it to be you. You want to be
Yeah,
wanted. You want to be needed.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And
what?
again, it's because it feeds your ego to be needed. It
Mm,
soothes you.
yes, yeah. Like
Is that
now,
an inner child situation?
what did we say about this inner child thing and the intertwinedness of this thing? I want to go back to the parenting. You said parenting. You said,
Mm,
Shafali Tabari says that what triggers uh, it triggers us because it speaks to an unhealed part of
mm,
ourselves.
mm,
So maybe uh, I wasn't acknowledged enough, I wasn't seen enough. So now you just do a little extra
mm,
so that the inner child, because the girl wants to now come out and play and be seen and shine.
mm, mm,
And now you have a control of to what degree the
mm,
girl can be seen.
mm,
Always say that. In fact, I wrote a paper, and the paper was on um, the healthy marriage between the self and the ego. And the reason
mm,
why I premised it on a marriage is that the proximity that is created by a marriage leaves no space to hide.
mm,
And so, if you want to develop a healthy relationship between the self and the ego and be truly liberated from it, is you first have to acknowledge it
mm,
and ask yourself, how does my ego show
mm,
up?
mm,
Because once you're clear on how it shows up, you can then lead with intention.
mm,
Because as long as you don't acknowledge it, you are going to do some really, for lack of a better word, stupid things, and then only realize later. For example, when you are now seeking help from
mm,
someone and that person doesn't show up for you in the way that you thought they would show up for you, and now it's their problem because they are ungrateful. No, they are not. When you did it wanting them to be indebted to you, and that
mm,
person decided to maintain who they are.
mm,
And so now your ego is bruised because
mm,
now, only now you're realizing that the ego is the one that helped that person.
mm,
So there was an ulterior motive for
mm.
that person. So
Whether
sometimes,
it was acknowledged or not at the time.
yes. And sometimes we can even be upset and not know why we're upset, and we'll call that person names, entitled, ungrateful, all kinds.
And cut them off and block them. My people block these days, like block.
Yes, yes. Block up, block up, block. Mm.
Mm.
But now, were you doing it so that for a time like today, or were you doing it from the goodness of your heart? Did it have an agenda? So it's a, yeah, I think that it's a question that we have to continue to ask ourselves. And um, is my inner child taken care of? Is my inner child wanting something? And when I do things, where am I doing those things from?
So
When I'm,
as I hold on to the barbed wire,
yeah,
yeah, where am I doing it from?
yes. And the barbed wire could be anything. It could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be a marriage, it could be an association, it could be absolutely anything. And it depends on what your barbed wire is, but you choose to hold on to it. And it's hurting you.
Hmm.
Mm.
Okay, so we have to, how do we then figure it out?
This barbed wire.
Hmm. Because, like you say, sometimes I don't even know why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. Or,
Yeah,
yeah, I know I'm uncomfortable,
yeah,
and something's poked and I'm feeling whatever. But how do I figure it out
yeah.
by myself if I'm not maybe seeing therapists or anything? What is the best way to, or maybe step one, if we were to say that?
I think step one is to ask yourself, um, is this harming me or is this helping me?
Okay.
Um, when I talk about resilience,
Mm,
I always say that, there's a time when resilience is no longer resilience.
mm,
You Lynette Ntuli came out a few years ago and she said on Women's Day, she said, this year, count me out of being embored. I'm not embored. I'm a soft cotton ball because I'm not hard. I'm not, please
and I
tell
bruise
me,
easily.
can I just be a soft cotton ball, please?
Mm,
you know and so I say, for you to test whether now you are being resilient or now you are really just committing a crime unto thyself, you have to ask yourself, is this harming me or is this helping me?
mm, mm,
And
mm.
if it's harming you, then something's got to change.
Yeah, I know it's harming me, Fortune, and I know something's got to change.
Yeah,
Where do I tap into the courage of doing that if I think about where I am? You breathe.
I breathe because no one can do that for anybody. It's like, when someone is in an abusive relationship,
Mm,
you can speak to them, um, they have to choose, but you
mm,
can't make them leave.
mm, mm, mm,
Or
mm,
someone comes to you and they're like, no, work is toxic.
mm,
They know why they are holding on.
mm,
They have a bond, they have children at school, they have X, Y, and Z.
mm.
How are you going to make them leave that job?
So, and they're not asking for advice. They know.
Yeah,
They know why they're there. They know why they're holding on, and
they
they've
know.
made the choice to hold on.
They know.
If they're gonna retire soon, they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they will hold on until they get to that point because they're
They,
not gonna do it any earlier or whatever. So those ones at least are aware.
they know.
So it's just us who are not introspecting why. You're tired, you don't want to do this anymore, but you're not thinking through the deepest reason. I always say, I don't know if I'm right, but that in most relationships, there's always that, what you mean, like, that ego, that reason. And normally we don't share it with our partners. It's like, I'm with you, yeah, I love you, but besides love,
Yeah, yeah,
that's just that self serving thing
yes,
that is there. That. if I can just accept it to myself. But I'm not gonna tell it to the
Mhm.
partner because what if they use it against me?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We are selfish.
Okay, okay. If we are generous again, unless we could be doing it wrong.
Mm. So that's why I say lead from intention.
Mm,
Because if you really interrogate why people hold on, why people do things that they do, um, behavioral economics has showed us this. People will do things based on what it will do for them.
mm, mm,
If it's got value, in change management, one of the things that we drive strongly is to show people why a particular change is important for them, what is in it for them.
mm,
That is a
mm,
basic change management principle, the within factor. What's in it for me?
mm, mm,
Asking you to operate from a higher level of what is the intention? What is driving me to do this?
mm,
And I always say it helps when you are clear. And if we're to get philosophical about it, is it helps when you're clear because the universe, God, or which higher power you be not going to be confused on what it
mm,
needs to serve you. But if you
mm,
come
mm.
out here with an ulterior motive and now universe, God, angels, they're trying to figure out like what is it that fortune, why is fortune doing this? They're also going to be confused. And now you're going to wonder why your things are not moving, you
That's
know,
powerful.
smoothly.
That's I felt that.
Because I'm like, they're also now wondering, oh, Lindy, we're like, what exactly
Mm.
you want? You work with us. It's a process. The other thing another example is, I don't understand people who are like, oh no, money is the root of all evil. Honey, if you deny money, money gonna deny you.
Mm,
If you're doing something because you want money, just be clear, at least in your head, and stop
exactly.
playing man
And
business.
accept that.
Just be clear. I learned this from a woman who said, I'm driven by my values, and one of my values is financial security. So if you
Mm,
call me to come and do something for you, I'm not going to be fuzzy about how much I'm
mm,
going to charge you because that is my value, financial
mm,
security and my
mm,
worth. So if I do something for you, trust that I will be clear about the monetary value that I'm drawing out of this engagement. And so and I thought that was it's a clear way of putting it.
mm.
She's very clear. It's not about, some cynical way of looking at how we view money. For her, this is about financial security. So don't mistake my wanting money for being greedy or any. This is just who I am.
I mean, same goes for a person who stays in that bad relationship for the safety or for money. Doesn't matter that there's cheating, there's that. I'm here for financial security and I'll stay as long as he's still paying the bills, as long as she's still paying for my car, as long as she's, you know,
Have
I'm
you
good.
heard the statement? If you hate your job, get a bond.
No, I haven't. What's going how's that gonna work?
In fact, somebody said to me, they heard it, I think, on Gareth. I think it was my best friend. She said that she heard it on Gareth Clip. Gareth Clip said, if you hate your job, get a bond because now you can't leave that job because
Oh
now you
yeah.
have a bond to
Now you've got an obligation now.
you got an
That's your
obligation.
wife or any that's gonna be your wife or anyone.
That is your why, that is your intention, but be clear about it.
Mm.
Be clear about it. What is your intention?
I agree. I just want to see if we have any questions. Please post your questions. I think we're almost even done. Oh, Freedom came back with a response to say, "Oh, Ish, now you're making me feel very bad. So now do you have to stop helping or just give and forget? Like help, but don't expect."
Freedom, just give. Period. Just give.
Hey, ay.
You know, my sister has a line. She says, Fortune, if you don't want stress, when you loan someone money, just consider
Forget
it as a
about
consider
it.
it as
Yeah.
a gift until they pay it back.
Mm, yeah.
Less
I
stress.
agree. On the money one, unless you don't want to lose it, then don't.
Yeah,
But if you give it, just
consider it as a gift.
mm.
Yeah.
But you're going to waste your time trying to get it back.
Yes. Yes.
You're going to create another situation so that you can see if you get it back.
Yes. I have another friend who also says, Minavela, I'll give. So that people, when they don't pay back, then at least they've got a gate that says to them, Ish, I can't go back to her because now I owe her. But
Okay.
that was just a light of naughty note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you can't come back to me because you already owe me. I've done it
Yes.
once.
Yes,
So
you've
in
done
that case, you choose the lowest number. You're like, okay, it's coming for 500. Let me do it now.
it. Yeah.
So that next time, if it's a big amount, it's got nothing to do. You're not put in there.
Yes, yes, that is true. That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, but this was very insightful for me. I think I get it. I'm getting it. And yeah, it's a lot of introspection because there's a lot of things we are feeling like we shouldn't be doing that are taxing us, are taxing our energy, are taxing our everything. We are edgy, we are irritable, we are tired, easily tired. And
Mm,
it's probably things that just don't serve you. And you're pushing and holding on and just, trying to make the best out of it. And
mm,
you are not even feeling it. I'm sure other people are getting what they need, the value from you, but the problem is you're not even feeling it.
yeah, yeah. It is
So
helping
just,
with
yeah,
harming.
yeah. So, like you say, first thing, introspect why. Make peace with your why you're there. If it doesn't give you peace, then make your decision. But at
Sure.
least you know why you are there.
You're clear.
Okay. Thanks so much, Fortune. Almost an
Thank you.
hour. Can you believe it? It goes fast, ne?
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We're gonna have you back next year.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Lindy. You must have a lovely evening.
I will, and have a lovely week ahead. It's my birthday Friday.
Oh, happy birthday. What are you doing?
Not going to work.
Oh, okay. Good
Yeah.
start. That's a good start. You're going to have a
Yeah.
Lindy with an international Lindy with day.
Yes. I want to read all your messages and respond to everyone. I don't want to be missing nothing.
That is true. That is true.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Soak
Perfect.
it in
We'll
and say, oh, look at this one. Oh, so sweet. Thank you.
and take it
And
in.
those moments free from just to absorb it
Yeah.
all. So, yeah.
Feel the love.
Yes. Feel the
Yeah.
love. Oh, there's my
Mm.
mommy.
Oh, hello, Ma.
Truly enjoyed the conversation and I've learned one or two things of your points. Fortune, please come back. Yes, she's coming
Thank
back.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Lindy. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Good night, guys.
Good night.